I want to build some unique Imperial Guardsmen, so let's steal some inspiration from my favourite Christmas movie. The goal here is to create Cadians inspired by the movie, but they still have to look like an Astra Militarum unit, not a screen-accurate recreation. If I wanted the latter, I'd just buy models of them. But they do have similar uniforms. The carapace armour's in the right place, there's knee pads, and with a bit of work to remove the fancy bits, the gaiters make a decent representation of the shin pads worn in the movie. Bare arms are a bit of a challenge, but we'll get to that. Obviously, I want pulse rifles. I did look at kitbashing them out of the humble lasgun, but life is short. So I bought these castings from Zinj Industries. No affiliation, by the way, I just seem to end up using a lot of their bits. For the first guardsman, I wanted a classic shouldered firing stance, and that's going to require some surgery. The left hand and a section of the foregrip were liberated from a lasgun and grafted in place on the pulse rifle. It's tricky, delicate work, but doable once you've had a drink to calm the shakes. To strengthen the join and fill the gaps, I used a bit of sprue goo, which is about as far as my amateur chemistry stretches. The stock is a bit on the chunky side, so I shaved it down to fit into the shoulder before turning my attention to the arms. Bare arms that are to the same scale as the new Cadians are quite thin on the ground, but some of the guys in the movie have uniforms with full-length sleeves, and that's all the excuse I need to cop out and go with the Cadian option anytime a pose is impossible to pull off without resorting to sculpting. Don't worry, other members of the squad will be bringing the gun show. One of the iconic bits of kit I wanted to borrow from the Colonial Marine aesthetic are the over-the-shoulder mounted lights. They're kind of dumb if you think about it, but I'm making this for a game that includes sentient lava, so it's just best not to think about it. Since the scale of the part is really unforgiving, I went with a rough representation made from some 2mm square section styrene capped with 2mm tube. I mounted this to a thin sliver of styrene strip which would attach to the back of the model, and broke out the nail art beads to represent the lens of the light and some external greeblies. To give more of a sense of scale and 3 dimension, I also added a handful of tiny slivers of 0.25mm styrene anywhere that I thought it would just make the shapes more interesting. So that's the first Marine done, and honestly he's a bit basic, so onto some models with a bit more character. For my attempt at a heavy weapon toting model that's in no way inspired by Vasquez, I turned to the Escher model range. The chem launcher provided the body of the weapon with its nice underslung grip, while the barrel was purloined from a Mechanicus heavy stubber. To give a bit more of a smart gun vibe, I had to do some sort of skeletal foregrip. This is made from bits of old motorbike on the movie prop, and it's far too fine to craft in plastic at this scale. So I made a representation of the cage from bits of 1mm hex section styrene to at least hint at the shape. There aren't many completely bare Escher arms, so I went with a knife-wielding option for her right side. And after contemplating using a helmeted head, I just decided to roll with the Escher vibes. They don't have necks, so I needed a bit of green stuff in the torso cavity, a sentence I never thought I'd be saying. Not bad, she's certainly got a vibe about her, but if I'm honest, I'd like to have got a little bit closer with the smart gun. No Colonial Marine inspired squad would be complete without at least one dude completely losing his shit. My search for correctly scaled bare arms led me to the Corn Jackals kit. So, out with the chainsword, in with a wire pin to make a more mechanically sound connection to the pulse rifle, as they definitely say. I lopped off the shoulder and replaced it with a Cadian shoulder pad, filling the small void with a little bit of sprue goo. I thought I was going to have to do some sculpting here, but I think I kind of got away with it. The other arm is one of the few bare Cadian arms that are available. I lopped off the end of the syringe and it kind of looks like he's holding a detonator. For what, I don't know, but I think it fits quite nicely. I went with a head with crazy eyes and a patrol cap to keep things varied, a choice I'd come to regret. I added the tactical Pixar lamp to his back, and that's it for another Colonial Marine. Oh, no, that doesn't really work, does it? The M240 incinerator is easily the clumsiest looking weapon in the movie, but a guardsman with a flamethrower is a must-have. I kept this conversion quite simple, removing the backpack mounted fuel feed and replacing it with a bottle scavenged from the Cataphrone kit, which is still MVP in the Kitbash League. The build then went together as Lord Workshop intended, save for the STC selfie stick on the back. And that's pretty much the long and the short of how I built these guys, so on to my favourite bit. Painting, camouflage and auto-dentistry share a similar fondness in my heart. So I pretty much just followed this great YouTube short by Peachy from the painting phase. It's okay, it's safe to watch, he doesn't even mention sharp. I substituted a couple of paint colours for ones I had on hand because I spent all of my money on corn jack-o'-lanterns, and as I kept reminding myself, these are my figures and I'll just do what I want with them. But otherwise, the camo paint is very much as laid out in the guide. I blocked in the blacks with Black Legion contrast, a paint which very wisely just goes where it's told, avoiding the need to go back and clean up any overspill on the camo pattern. Now, I'm on a tight deadline to get this done before the Christmas break, so the skin needed the contrast treatment. I repainted the skin and hair white using the excellent Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White, which is GOAT as far as I'm concerned. And after a bunch of small highlights that I didn't film, I finished off the bases with some rust effects and pigments, paying close attention to almost nothing at all because it's nearly Christmas and I've got a 3-year-old reminding me of that every 6 seconds. And that's my Cadian Marines, Colonial Cadians, Colonial Shock Troops. There really isn't a good name for what's just occurred here. In any case, this was a fun little build to round out the year. Are they useful in a game? No. Could I build an army of them? No. Are they a little bit different? Who's to say? Happy holidays.